The first time I saw him, the night smelled like rain and gasoline. My bike had died on a stretch of highway that didn't exist on any map, just a dark line between an abandoned gas station and a bar that had forgotten its own name. The sky hung low, the wind cut through my jacket, and every pair of headlights that passed me kept going, until one didn't. A Harley rolled to a stop beside me, old and heavy, its engine thundering like it remembered wars I'd never lived through. The man who stepped off it looked carved out of the road itself, grey beard, hollow eyes, and the kind of silence that only comes from seeing too much for too long. He didn't ask my name, didn't smile, didn't waste breath. He just crouched by my bike, grunted in disapproval, and said in a sandpaper voice, "Kill switch. You're lucky it's just that." 10 minutes later, the engine breathed again, 15, and I could no longer feel the cold. He refused money, refused a drink, refused anything. He only studied me like he was trying to decide something I couldn't name. When my bike finally rumbled back to life, he placed a heavy hand on my shoulder and said, "The road takes, kid, but sometimes it gives something back, don't waste it." Then he mounted his Harley, made a slow turn, and disappeared into the darkness as if the night had swallowed him whole. I didn't know his name, but the memory of that moment stayed with me. Years later, everything had changed. My brother was gone, the club fractured, the road felt colder than ever. So when I heard that same engine rumble outside a bar, my blood froze. Same bike, same shadow, same man. But this time, he hadn't come to fix anything. He'd come with the truth about my brother. Some stories don't begin with answers. They begin with a sound, a memory, a ghost riding back into your life when you least expect it. If you've spent enough nights on the road, you know exactly what I mean. The highway has a way of holding on to things, promises, mistakes, the truth you weren't ready to face. And sooner or later, it sends somethings or someone back your way. The night he returned, I wasn't searching for closure. I wasn't even thinking about the past. I was just trying to get through another quiet evening at a bar that smelled like old whiskey and rain-soaked wood. One of the last places where my brother's laughter still echoed if the wind hit right. But the moment I heard that Harley outside, everything inside me froze. There are engines you never forget, shadows you never forget, warnings you wish you had listened to before it was too late. If this kind of storytelling speaks to you, consider subscribing and hit the like button. It keeps these roads alive. And if you've lived a road story worth telling, share it in the comments, or use the link in the description to send it privately. Who knows? Maybe your ride becomes the next chapter we bring to life here. Now, back to that night. The neon lights flickered. The conversations died one by one. And when he stepped through the door, it felt like the past itself had pulled up a chair beside me. He didn't look like a man carrying answers, but he was. And the truth he brought with him wasn't just about my brother's final ride. It was about mine too. The bar was quieter than usual that night. Not empty, just heavier. The kind of quiet that sits on your shoulders, presses into your spine, makes every breath feel louder than it should. A pool table clicked in the back, slow and uneven, like the player didn't care much whether he sank the shot or not. The jukebox was dead again, humming like an old engine refusing to start. And the neon sign above the door flickered the same way my nerves did whenever the wind blew in from the highway. When the Harley cut its engine outside, the sound rolled through the walls like distant thunder. No one reacted at first. Riders come and go all the time. Strangers, regulars, drifters with patched jackets and hollow eyes. But something about that rumble made the air tighten, like someone had just walked over all of our graves at once. I looked up from my glass, and then the door opened. He stood there framed in the doorway, outlined in blue neon and moonlit dust. Same broad shoulders, same worn leather jacket, same expression carved from stone. Years had passed, But he looked exactly as he had the night he fixed my bike, like time owed him favors instead of the other way around. A few heads turned. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the guy at the pool table stopped, cue stick suspended in the air like he'd forgotten what game he was playing. Bars like ours don't fear much, but we respect silence. And the silence that followed this man inside felt earned. He didn't scan the room hunting for trouble. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't lost. He walked like he had come here for one thing, and nothing, not time, not distance, not ghosts, was going to get in his way. When his eyes found mine, he stopped. For a heartbeat, he didn't move, and neither did I. He walked toward me slowly, boots clicking against the wooden floor, steady, deliberate, like each step had been rehearsed years before. When he reached my table, he didn't ask if he could sit. He just did. The leather of the booth creaked beneath his weight, and the smell of rain clung to him like a second jacket. "You remember me," he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. "Hard to forget someone who shows up in the middle of nowhere and brings your bike back to life." His lips twitched, not a smile, just a muscle deciding whether it remembered how. "Good. Saves us time." There was a pause, the kind that makes the whole room fade until it's just two men and a truth waiting to be spoken. I took a slow breath. "What brings you back?" I asked. His eyes shifted, and for the first time that night, I saw something crack in him. Not weakness, not fear, something older, something that had weight. "You have a brother," he said quietly. Had. A cold blade ran down my spine. My grip tightened around the glass. "You knew him." My voice came out lower than I expected. He looked away, just for a moment, as if the answer wasn't something he could hold directly in his hands. Then he leaned forward, both arms on the table, leather creasing like old scars. "I was there the night he died. Everything inside me went silent. The bar, the neon, the storm rolling outside. All of it vanished behind those words. I'd spent years drowning in questions no one could answer. Rumors, whispers, half-truths carried down the highway like dust in the wind. But no one had ever said they were there. No one had ever looked me in the eyes and claimed witness. I forced the question out. Why come now? His jaw tightened. The kind of tension a man gets when he's about to break open a piece of himself he never wanted to revisit. He glanced toward the door, as if making sure no one else was listening, then turned back to me. "Because," he said, voice gravel low, "he didn't die the way you were told." My heartbeat thundered in my throat. "And because someone is coming," he added. "Someone who thinks you know the truth." I stared at him, confusion and dread twisting together in my chest. "What truth?" I whispered. He looked straight into me. "The one your brother died to protect." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The words hung between us like smoke, heavy, poisonous, impossible to ignore. The neon above the door buzzed weakly, flickering in the edges of my vision, the only sign that time hadn't stopped completely. "What do you mean he died protecting something?" I finally managed. The man's hands rested on the table, calloused, scarred, steady. He didn't fidget, didn't blink, just stared into my face like he was measuring how much of the truth I could survive. "Before I say anything," he murmured, "there's something you need to understand. Your brother wasn't just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He wasn't a victim of bad luck. What happened to him? It was part of something larger." My pulse hammered against my ribs. I leaned back, the leather booth groaning beneath me. "Start talking." He exhaled slowly, like he was releasing years of dust from his lungs. "Your brother saved me once." That wasn't what I expected. Not even close. He didn't give me time to react. He pulled me out of something dark, something I didn't think I'd walk away from, and I owed him for that. Owed him in a way you can't pay back with a handshake or a bottle of whiskey. Real debt. Life debt. He paused, jaw clenched. The kind you carry until the road ends. The bar felt smaller, the walls closer. The weight behind his words was real, something earned in blood, not imagination. "But he never told anyone." the man continued. Never used it, never asked for anything, just carried on. His eyes hardened. Until the night he died. A shiver crawled up my spine. Why come to me? If you owed him, why wait all these years? He looked down, tapping once on the table, a soft, rhythmic thud like a distant heartbeat. Because I wasn't supposed to survive either. That night we found trouble, your brother and I. It should have taken us both, but it didn't. And the guilt of walking away, he shook his head once. The road collects its debts in strange ways. I let that sit. The rain outside intensified, tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. Tell me what happened, I said. He nodded slowly, as if deciding to finally unlock a door sealed long ago. We were riding together. Not planned, just chance. I'd run into him earlier that evening, outside a truck stop where some guys were hassling a woman on her way home. Your brother stepped in. Not loud, not reckless, just enough presence to make them think twice. A ghost of a smirk passed across his face. He had that effect on people. I swallowed. That sounded like him. After it cooled off, we shared the road for a while. He rode like a man who knew exactly how much weight he carried inside, but he didn't let it sink him. He rode honest. The man's expression darkened, and then a black van started trailing us. My stomach tightened. I leaned forward. Who was in it? He met my eyes. Men who knew your brother, men who wanted something he had, or something he knew, hard to tell in the dark. My throat tightened. What did they want? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took a slow breath, as if the memory itself tasted like rust. They boxed us in, forced us off the road. His voice lowered. Your brother pushed me behind his bike and told me to run. I didn't listen. I stayed. He flexed his hands, knuckles whitening. And because I stayed, he died. The room felt cold, not from the weather, something deeper, a truth settling into my bones like winter frost. But that's not all, the man said. Before he fell, he slipped something into my pocket, something he told me to protect, something I didn't understand at the time. My heart pounded. Where is it? He locked eyes with me. That's why I'm here. Someone else knows it exists. They think you have it, and they're coming. The bar lights flickered. The storm growled outside. What did my brother give you? I asked, barely above a whisper. He reached slowly into his jacket and pulled out a leather key fob, burned with a symbol I recognized instantly. My brother's mark. The key fob hit the table with a soft, unmistakable weight, a sound that cracked something open in my chest. The leather was worn smooth from years of being handled, but the symbol burned into it hadn't faded at all. A small circle crossed by a single vertical line. My brother's personal mark. He carved it into his tools, burned it into his saddlebags, even tattooed it on the inside of his wrist. It wasn't just a symbol, it was a promise. His promise to protect what mattered. Seeing it now, in the hands of a man I barely knew, made the room spin for a second. That was his, I whispered. It is now yours, he said quietly. My fingers hovered over the key fob but didn't touch it. Not yet. Something inside me wasn't ready. Memories rose, unwelcome but relentless. The last night I saw my brother alive, the easy laugh he threw over his shoulder, the way he tapped that same mark against the gas tank before every ride. A ritual, a reminder. What does it open? I asked. His jaw tightened. Not a lock, a message. My stomach dropped. A message? I didn't know what it meant at the time. I barely know now. He leaned in, lowering his voice as the storm outside rattled the windows. There was a piece of paper folded inside this fob when he gave it to me. I didn't open it for years. Couldn't. I wasn't ready. He exhaled slowly. When I finally did, the message was short. Just a location and one line. I felt the world narrow to his words. What did it say? He met my gaze with something like sorrow. If I fall, bring him here. A cold weight settled in my chest. Him, I repeated. You, he said. He meant you. The bar had gone quiet behind us. Even the guy racking the pool balls did it softer now, like the room itself was listening. I pulled the key fob closer, thumb brushing the edge. The leather was warm, familiar, as if it still carried the heat of my brother's hand from that last night. What's the location? I asked. He looked toward the door before answering, as though someone might burst in at any second. A storage unit outside Sierra Ridge, off an old service road. Abandoned now, at least it should be. Should be, I echoed. He nodded once, eyes dark. I drove by yesterday. Someone else has been there. Someone who left tire tracks deep enough to show they were in a hurry. A chill crawled up my spine. Does this have to do with the men in the black van? I asked. Yes, he said without hesitation. And no. His expression hardened. Your brother wasn't running from them. He was running towards something. Something he'd been hiding for years. Something he trusted only you with. My throat tightened. If he trusted me so much, why didn't he tell me? He let out a breath that carried a lifetime of regret. Sometimes a man keeps secrets to protect the ones he loves. Sometimes he keeps them because he's afraid of what those secrets will turn them into. That stung more than I expected. Lightning flashed through the windows, slicing the room with white light. The thunder that followed shook the bottles on the shelves behind the bar. A couple of riders murmured about the storm, but their eyes kept drifting toward our table, curiosity stirring like dust. What happens now? I asked. He reached inside his jacket again, slower this time, like he was handling something fragile. He pulled out a folded map, old, creased, stained by the years. We go to the unit, he said. Tonight, I stared at him. You and me, he nodded. It's the only way. If those men find whatever your brother left behind before we do, then neither of us makes it through the week. The air tasted like metal, danger, storm, and the beginning of something I wasn't sure I wanted to face. I looked down at the key fob again. My brother's mark stared back at me, unwavering. What if I'm not ready for what's inside? I asked quietly. He leaned back, eyes solemn. No one ever is. But the road doesn't wait for ready. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of fate tightening around my throat. When do we leave? I whispered. He slid out of the booth, boots thudding softly against the floor. Now, he said, and for the first time since the night my brother died, the road felt alive again. The storm had settled thick over the highway, swallowing the world in sheets of rain and the constant low growl of thunder. By the time we stepped outside, the parking lot was drenched in silver, every puddle reflecting neon and moonlight like shattered mirrors. My breath came out in a fog. The familiar hum of my engine should have steadied me. But tonight, it only amplified the weight in my chest. The man, he still hadn't told me his name, walked to his Harley with the calm of someone who'd faced worse than storms. He swung a leg over the bike, glanced back at me, and nodded toward the highway. No words, just a gesture that said, "Time is shorter than you think." I mounted my own bike, thumbed the ignition, and felt the engine vibrate beneath me. Alive, impatient, ready. The same way I felt, or maybe the opposite. We pulled out of the lot, tires cutting through the water, our headlights carving two faint tunnels in the rain. For a while, the only sounds were engines and the storm. No bars, no questions, no ghosts, except the ones we carried with us. Sierra Ridge was a few towns over, tucked behind old mining roads and abandoned service stations that hadn't seen life in decades. The kind of place no one would look for answers, unless they already knew the question. My brother must have chosen it for that reason. But why me? Why hide something I'd have to face without him? The man rode ahead, his silhouette blurred by the storm. Yet something about his pace felt intentional, like he was giving me time to think, but not enough to turn back. The highway markers flew past us, glowing white for a breath before dissolving into darkness. After 20 minutes, the rain lightened enough for voices to find my thoughts again. "You said someone's coming after me," I called out over the engines as we slowed near an old way station. He didn't look back. They're not after you because of who you are. They're after you because of who he was. My brother? A small nod. He got involved in something he never told you about, something dangerous, something he didn't want touching you. Anger and grief twisted in my gut. Then why leave me a message? Why bring me into it now? Because he knew it wouldn't stay buried forever. His tone wasn't cruel, just inevitable. We pulled under an overhang, rusted metal barely holding itself together, to let the worst of the storm pass. The rain drummed on the roof like a war march. He shut off his engine. The sudden quiet made my heart thunder louder. "When your brother slipped me that key fob," he said, staring out into the rain, "he was bleeding. Bad. He knew he wasn't walking away, but he didn't run. He fought them. He drew them off me. He made damn sure I lived long enough to bring this to you." I tightened my grip on the handlebars. "You said he saved you, but it sounds like you didn't save him." His jaw clenched. Just for a second, he deserved the words. He didn't flinch from them. "I tried," he said, "but I failed." The rain softened. The storm seemed to take a breath. "Why help me now?" I asked. "After all these years?" He finally turned to me, and for the first time I saw past the stoicism. I saw weariness, guilt, and something else, resolve. Because a debt like the one I owed your brother doesn't disappear. It waits. And because you're the only one left who can finish what he started. Lightning cracked behind us, illuminating the highway in stark white. And in that split second, something shifted in the corner of my vision. Headlights, far off, too far for sound, but not for intent. The man saw them too. His entire posture changed, alert, coiled. "That's them," he said. "They're closer than I thought." My heart slammed against my ribs. "How many?" "Doesn't matter." He swung onto his bike. "Ride now, or there won't be a tomorrow." I didn't argue. My engine roared to life. We tore back onto the road, tires hissing against wet asphalt, and behind us, the headlights moved faster. The storm hadn't finished with us. It waited until we were back on the open stretch before unleashing another wall of rain, so heavy it felt like riding through a river suspended in mid-air. Visibility shrank to a narrow tunnel of trembling light. The engines vibrated beneath us, pushing through the dark like two hearts refusing to stop beating. Behind us, the headlights multiplied. 2, no, 3, moving fast. The man ahead of me didn't need to shout instructions. His posture said everything. He lowered into the bike, shoulders tight, speed rising. I followed, every muscle bracing against the cold slap of water, every instinct screaming to look back even though I knew it wouldn't help. The storm twisted the world into shapes, ghosts, shadows, memories I never asked to see. But the headlights behind us were real, and they were gaining. We approached a fork in the highway. The main road would have taken us toward town. Lights, help, eyes. But the man veered left, down a narrower, unmarked route, swallowed by trees and blackness. I cursed under my breath and followed him, trusting he knew the terrain better than I did. The new road was rough, barely maintained, littered with branches and rocks that glistened like knives under the rain. Our tires fought to grip it. One mistake, one slip, and we'd crash hard enough to gift the men behind us exactly what they wanted. A flash of lightning carved the sky open, and in that split second, I saw the van behind us, hydroplaning through the water, fishtailing, correcting, determined. They weren't letting go. We hit a long curve where the road clung to the side of a ridge, the drop-off invisible but definitely there. The storm wind shoved at us, angry, desperate to unseat us. My gloves were soaked through. My fingers were going numb. I steadied the throttle anyway. Fear sharpens focus until it doesn't. The man suddenly slowed, raised a hand. Signal. Obstacle. I looked ahead, just in time to see debris scattered across the asphalt. A fallen tree branch, thick and slick. He swerved around it, his Harley kicking up a spray of water. I followed, my tire clipping the edge but holding. Behind us, one of the chasing headlights jolted sideways. The van had hit the branch. Sparks spit into the storm. The engine snarled in protest, but they didn't stop. If anything, they pushed harder. The man angled us off the road and onto a dirt path I would have missed entirely in the dark. We cut through it, mud exploding beneath our wheels, the forest closing in overhead like a cathedral of shadows. The storm softened under the canopy, but the danger doubled. Mud pits, roots, blind curves. We slowed enough to keep control. The headlights faded behind us, first dimming, then disappearing. We rode another quarter-mile before he raised his hand again, signaling a stop. My engine sputtered as I eased off the throttle, both bikes rumbling to a halt in a clearing where the rain fell in thin vertical lines. Quieter now, almost gentle. For a long minute, we said nothing. The storm muttered around us, but the forest seemed to listen. "They're not going to give up," I said, catching my breath. "No," he agreed. "They won't." "Who are they?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "What do they want? What the hell did my brother get into?" He removed his helmet slowly, rain tracing lines down his weathered face. His eyes, dark, determined, met mine. "They want the truth he kept from them," he said quietly. "And they want the thing he hid in that storage unit. The thing he trusted you with." My anger flared hot in my ribs. "Then tell me what it is." He shook his head. "I can't, not because I don't want to, but because I don't know the full story. Only what he told me in his last minutes." I swallowed hard. "Then tell me that." He looked toward the trees, as if expecting someone or something to step out of them. He said, the man whispered, "If they find it, they'll bury him twice." A chill gripped my spine. "What does that mean?" I asked. He turned back to me, and the look in his eyes made the clearing feel colder than any storm. "It means your brother died keeping a secret," he said. "And if we don't reach Sierra Ridge before they do," he paused, "you'll die carrying it." The storm thinned as we approached Sierra Ridge, breaking into ragged curtains of mist that clung to the trees like the last fragments of a bad dream. The road curved upward, hugging the hillside in long, winding sweeps. My headlight carved a weak path through the fog, making every shadow look like a man waiting to step into the road. The man, still just a nameless silhouette ahead of me, slowed as we reached the crest, then signaled right. I followed him onto an old access road where gravel replaced asphalt and the forest pressed close enough to scrape the air off your skin. Ahead, a chain-link gate sagged on one hinge. A faded sign hung crooked beside it. "Sierra Ridge Storage Units, 148, closed permanently." Wind rattled the metal like a warning. He dismounted and pushed the gate. It screeched but opened. We rode through slowly, engines rumbling low, the sound bouncing off the row of rusted storage units stretching out in the half-moon light. "This place looks dead," I said. "He killed his engine. That's why your brother chose it." I shut mine off too. The sudden silence felt unnatural, empty in a way that made the hair rise along my arms. Rain dripped off the metal roofs in uneven beats, a rhythm too slow to be comforting. "Which one?" I asked. He pointed toward a unit at the far end, Unit 23. Its door was dented, paint-peeling padlock rusted into a shape barely recognizable. But the ground in front of it wasn't untouched. Fresh tire marks carved through the mud. Bootprints, several of them, leading straight to that door. And one set leading away, a tight knot twisted in my stomach. "Someone's already been here." "Maybe." He crouched, studied the prints. "But they didn't get inside." "What makes you so sure?" He tapped the lock. The metal was old but undisturbed. No scratches, no drilling, no force marks. "Either they didn't try," he said, "or they didn't have the key." My hand drifted to the key fob in my pocket. The weight of it suddenly felt heavier. He stood, his face shadowed. "You ready?" "No," I admitted, "but we don't have time to wait for ready." He nodded once, a small, approving gesture, and reached out his hand. Give me the fob." I hesitated only a moment before placing it in his palm. He traced the burned symbol with his thumb, then pressed the hidden button on the side. A thin metallic click sounded, almost too faint to hear. He pressed the fob against the rusted padlock. A second click. The lock fell open. I swallowed hard. "Only your brother knew this trick," he said. "And now you do." He removed the lock and pulled the door upward. Metal screamed against metal, echoing through the dim corridor between units. I flinched, instinctively scanning the tree line. If anyone was close, they'd hear that. Inside, dust swirled in the air, disturbed by the sudden opening. The unit was dark, but not empty. My flashlight beam swept across the interior, a workbench, old tools, a cracked helmet, an oil-stained jacket that almost stopped my heart. My brother's. "Geez, I didn't think I'd ever see that again," I whispered. The man stepped inside, boots crunching over debris. "This isn't what we came for. Look deeper." I followed him in. The air smelled like rust and old fuel. Shadows gathered in the corners like secrets refusing to be touched. I moved slowly, lifting a tarp, opening a crate filled with spare parts and faded documents that meant nothing to me. Then I saw it. A metal locker bolted into the wall, different from everything else, newer, heavier, deliberate, and burned into the metal, the same mark on the key fob. My throat tightened. "This is it." He reached the locker before I could, placed a steady hand against it, almost reverent. "Open it," he said. I fit the key fob into the small, recessed slot. Another click. The locker door creaked open. Inside was a black duffel bag. Plain, silent. But the way the man inhaled sharply told me everything I needed to know. "What's in there?" I asked. He didn't answer, not at first. Instead, he lifted the bag carefully, too carefully, and set it on the floor. The zipper hesitated, almost resisting. He pulled it open, and inside, not weapons, not cash, not IDs or documents, but a stack of photos, dozens of them, each one showing the same face. My brother and a man standing beside him, a man with the same eyes, the same jawline, the same blood. "Is that—" I whispered. "Yes," the man said, voice low. "Your brother had a son." Before I could breathe, a sound split the night, a distant engine, growing louder, closer. He snapped the locker shut. "They found us," he said. The headlights broke through the trees. The headlights cut through the trees like knives, white, sharp, unhesitating. Branches fractured under tires, engines revved hard, and the forest that had sheltered us only moments ago now sounded like it was coughing up wolves. The man's posture shifted instantly. No panic, just purpose. "Grab the bag," he said. I did, slinging it over my shoulder. The photos inside seemed to burn through the canvas, their weight somehow heavier than anything else I'd carried these past years. My brother had a son, a nephew I never knew, a life he kept hidden to protect. Why? From who? The storm outside wasn't the only thing flooding now. The engines grew louder, 3, maybe 4 vehicles. Their beams sliced across the storage unit door, shadows stretching long and violent behind us. The man drew a deep breath, steady like a soldier, stepping back into a war he never wanted to fight again. "We go out the back," he said. "There is no back," I shot back. "There is tonight." He nodded toward the unit's far wall, where a rusted ventilation grate sat crooked in its frame. "Help me." We yanked it free, metal groaning loud enough to betray us. Behind it was a narrow maintenance corridor, dirt floor, exposed pipes, pitch black. The kind of place meant for electricians, not 2 bikers running from ghosts with guns. But we weren't choosing anymore. We were surviving. We ducked inside just as a vehicle screeched to a stop outside the unit. Boots splashed in the mud. Voices barked orders, short, clipped, disciplined. These weren't drunks or thugs. They were trained. The man closed the grate behind us, plunging us into darkness. "They'll find the open locker," I whispered. "Let them," he answered. It's empty now. We crept down the corridor, our footsteps swallowed by the dirt. Above us, a muffled bang, then another. They were breaking into the unit, searching. "We won't outrun them," I said. "We don't have to outrun them," he replied. "Just get far enough to learn the truth." Through the darkness, his silhouette paused. "You deserve that. And your brother wanted it." My chest tightened. "You knew him better than I thought." A long silence. "Then, I knew the part he didn't show you, the part he hid to keep you clean." Before I could respond, a gunshot cracked overhead, shattering wood. Dust rained down from the ceiling. "They're shooting," I hissed. "They're warning," he said. "The real shots come when they have eyes on you." The corridor ended at another grate. Outside, faint city glow cut through the forest. Civilization. Not safety, just noise to drown out screaming. He kicked the grate loose, and we crawled out into the brush behind the storage facility. The rain had stopped, almost completely. The quiet now felt wrong, artificial. We moved through the trees, crouched low, navigating roots and mud until the forest plateau opened onto a slope overlooking the road. Below us, the men stood beside their vehicles, 2 black SUVs and a van, the same kind described in the story of my brothers last night. Their silhouettes moved like they belonged to the dark, efficient, coordinated. One man stepped forward, his voice rising through the moist air. "Check every unit. He left something. Find it." My blood ran cold. They weren't talking about the bag. They were talking about the boy, my nephew, my brother's son. The man beside me tensed, a flicker of something almost like fear passing across his face. "They don't know we have the photos," he said quietly. "But they know he existed, and they know he disappeared after your brother died." The truth hit me like a blow. "You're telling me they killed my brother, searching for his son?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to, because the men below us suddenly turned their flashlights toward the forest, toward us. "We need to move," he whispered. But I grabbed his wrist. "You still haven't told me why he trusted you, why he died for you." In the darkness, I finally saw it, a flicker of shame, raw and naked. "Because," he said softly, "I was supposed to protect the boy, and I failed." My breath froze. "The men hunting us," he continued, "they think you know where the boy is. They think your brother told you." My voice cracked. "But he never did." "I know," he said. "That's why we're still alive." A flashlight beam swept near us. We ducked low. "If they're looking for him," I whispered, "we need to find him first." The man nodded, jaw set. "That's exactly what your brother wanted." Down below, an SUV door slammed. They were moving again, hunting us, hunting him, hunting the truth my brother died to protect. The man looked at me, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. "From this point on," he said, "there's no turning back." And somewhere in the night, beyond the trees, beyond the storm, beyond everything I thought I understood, a young man with my brother's blood was waiting. We moved deeper into the forest, the branches weaving themselves into a canopy that filtered what little moonlight remained. Our engines were long behind us. The SUVs were somewhere below, slithering through the access roads like predators waiting for us to slip. Every step was a negotiation with mud, roots, and the weight of the truth we carried. The duffel bag bounced against my back, the photos inside rustling like whispers. The face of my brother's son, my nephew, pressed against my thoughts with every heartbeat. How long had he been out there alone? Who had taken him in? And why did the men hunting us believe I knew where he was? The man walking ahead of me, still nameless, still a mystery, stopped suddenly, raising a silent hand. I froze. Ahead, through the trees, a faint glow pulsed, white and mechanical. Headlights, but not searching, idling. A vehicle sat just off the service road, half hidden behind a collapsed fence. A motorcycle, old, battered, unmistakably Harley, was strapped to the back of it. Not ours, not theirs. Someone else's. My pulse kicked up. Is that No, he said. Different plates, different tread. Someone else has been here. Someone alone. A lone rider. At Sierra Ridge, tonight. That couldn't be coincidence. The man crouched low, motioning for me to follow. We moved closer, stepping lightly. Leaves softened our approach. The forest muffled our existence. As we neared the vehicle, a figure became visible, sitting beside a small camp lantern, hood up, shoulders tense, young, slimmer than either of us, but calm. Too calm for someone out here alone. The man's breath caught. He knew something. He recognized something. I whispered, "Is that—" "Not yet," he murmured. "But it could be." My heart hammered so loudly I thought the figure might hear it. We stepped into the glow. The lantern cast long shadows as the hooded person lifted their head, eyes sharp, dark, and familiar. He stood slowly, no fear in him, only a guarded readiness. His voice cracked the silence, soft but not timid. "You're late." Everything in my chest knotted. "Who are you?" He didn't hesitate. "I'm the one you've been looking for." The world tilted for a moment. The photos in the bag suddenly felt like anchors dragging me underwater. The man beside me, not me, took a step forward, his voice steady. "What's your name?" The young rider looked at him with a mix of defiance and exhaustion. "The one he gave me," he said, "before he died." My throat tightened. He meant my brother. "What did he tell you?" I asked, my voice barely holding together. The young man reached into his jacket and pulled out a small tin box, old, dented, but sealed with the same mark burned into the key fob. My brother's mark. "He said to keep this safe," the boy whispered. "He said people would come, dangerous people, and if anything ever happened, I should wait for the one who shared his blood." His eyes found mine. "And that's you." For a moment, the world went silent. The storm, the engines, the men hunting us, all gone. Just 3 riders standing under the skeletal branches of Sierra Ridge, connected by a man who was gone, but never really left. The older man exhaled shakily. "We need to move now. They're close." The boy nodded, gripping the tin box tight. "I know. They've been hunting me for months." He stepped closer to me. He wasn't afraid. There was something of my brother in his stance, something in the way he held his jaw, in the way he didn't raise his voice, even when threatened. "Before we go," he said softly, "there's something you need to know." He opened the tin box. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a flash drive, old, scratched, but intact. "This," he whispered, "is why they killed him." I stared. "What's on it?" The boy swallowed, eyes darkening. "Proof," he said. "Proof of what they did. Proof of who they are. Proof my father died trying to stop them." Footsteps cracked behind us, branches snapping. Voices. The hunters had found the clearing. The man beside me tightened his fists. The boy backed toward the bikes. I felt the weight of the truth settle into my bones. Whatever was on that drive didn't just kill my brother. It was about to determine whether the 3 of us lived long enough to expose it. The boy met my eyes, breath trembling. "Are you ready?" I nodded. But the road ahead didn't wait for my answer. It came for us. The first man stepped into the clearing with a flashlight raised, its beam slicing through the mist like a blade. More shadows followed behind him, silent, disciplined, advancing with the certainty of men who had already decided how the night would end. The young rider clutched the tin box to his chest. The older man shifted his weight subtly, positioning himself between us and the threat. And me, I felt something inside settle, not with fear, but with the same calm that had lived in my brother's eyes on the night he took his final ride. The truth wasn't behind us anymore. It was standing right beside me, holding a flash drive small enough to fit in my palm and heavy enough to change everything. One of the hunters called out, his voice cold, practiced. "We don't want blood, just what belongs to us." But the boy stepped forward anyway, his jaw set in a way that was painfully familiar. "This was never yours," he said, lifting the tin box slightly. "You took my father. You don't get to take this too." The forest swallowed the man's curse. He signaled. More flashlights rose, more guns, more footsteps closing in, and for a brief moment, the world shrank to the sound of my heartbeat and the soft click of the older man opening his knife. Engines roared to life, not theirs. Ours. The boy lunged onto his bike, the older man onto his, and I followed before thought caught up to instinct. Gravel exploded beneath our tires as we tore into the darkness. 3 riders bound by blood, hunted by ghosts, carrying the truth my brother died to protect. And as the forest blurred past us and bullets cracked through the trees, I finally understood. This wasn't the end of his story. It was the beginning of ours. If you made it this far, thanks for riding with me. If you want more stories like this, you know what to do. Hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. See you on the next road.